Welcome back, everyone. This is Shalazar with Hive Mind Gaming, coming at you with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Alright, so update 4.60 it should be here actually within the next few days, because we're talking about DOOMTOWER Rotation 3 is coming out, and DOOMTOWER, the current DOOMTOWER rotation is 2 days out. So from resetting, and I think this is coming out on this reset. Now, if you haven't seen any of the cool videos done by a lot of the content creators that are actually on the test server, go check them out. You'll be able to see these crazy new bosses. Yeah, I mean, they're pretty devastating. You've got the Bommel, which is like a rhino boss that throws bombs. His main attack is attacks all enemies, decreases bomb detonation countdowns by 1 turn. Also instantly activates any HP burn debuffs on each target and decreases the duration of those debuffs by 1 turn. And then his next attack is attacks all enemies, places HP burn debuff on each enemy for 3 turns, and then it's got a passive effect which enemies receive 100% more damage from HP burn debuffs for each bomb debuff they are under. Ooh, that's rough. And then the next, he's got the removes all buffs from all enemies, then attacks them, places a bomb debuff on each enemy that detonates after 2 turns, places 1 additional bomb debuff for each buff removed by this skill. The bomb debuffs cannot be blocked or removed. And then lastly, places a 50% increase attack buff on Bommel the Dreadhorn for 5 turns, then summons 2 Dread Bombs and grants an extra turn. The increased attack buff cannot be removed. It does have a passive effect, which is summons 1 Dread Bomb every time Bommel's turn meter is decreased. Oh, wow. And then his passive, each time an enemy places any debuff except bomb debuffs on Bommel, place a bomb debuff on that enemy that detonates after 2 turns. These bomb debuffs cannot be blocked or removed. Each time a bomb debuff detonates on an enemy has a 50% chance of placing a stun debuff on all other enemies for 1 turn. Bommel receives 200% more damage from bomb debuffs. So obviously this guy wants to be killed by bombs. I mean, he's just screaming, "Bomb me." So basically what they're doing, they're forcing you to use crappy champions, is basically what it boils down to. All right, the Dread Bomb that he brings up is a minion, and let's see, it's got 2 passives. Explodes at the start of each turn and deals pure damage to each enemy equal to 40% of their max HP if the Dread Bomb is not under a freeze debuff at the start of the turn. Okay, alright, that's where Ninja's going to come in handy. Nice. Or any other champ that has freeze. Deals pure damage to each enemy equal to 20% of their max HP instead if the Dread Bomb is under a freeze debuff at the start of the turn. So either way it's going to deal damage. It just deals only 20%. Wow, okay. And then damage inflicted will ignore shield buffs. Ouch. Alright, Short Fuse, another passive. The Dread Bomb is immune to all debuffs, effects, and sources of damage except its own skills and freeze and HP burn debuffs. Fills the Dread Bomb's turn meter by 20% every time it receives damage from a HP burn debuff. Wow. Alright. Alright, and then each one of these bosses are going to have a artifact set, obviously, just like all the other DOOMTOWER bosses. Now, this DOOMTOWER set looks like it's going to get resistance plus 40 and defense plus 10%, and it's a 2-piece set, so they can stack quite high. All right, that's pretty cool. So defense and resistance, that's actually not a bad combination. That looks really good. Fortitude set. All right, and then we've got a Stranix. Let's see. Her A1 is attacks all enemies, has a 100% chance of placing a leech debuff on each enemy for 2 turns. Attacks all enemies on her A2, steals 1 random buff from each enemy according to the number of magic champions on the enemy team. Oh wow, so interesting. All right, so let's see. 1 buff for each magic champion. Steals turn meter from each enemy according to the number of force champions on the enemy team. 10% turn meter for each force champion. Has a 25% chance of placing a true fear debuff on each enemy for 1 turn. The chance increases by 25% for each void champion on the enemy team. And then heals a Stranix by 10% of her max HP for each spirit champion on the enemy team. And that's on a 3-turn cooldown. Wow. All right, and then Fairy Storm attacks all enemies. All living allies will team up and join this attack. Wow, so she's got an ally attack ability. Damage increases by 25% of each living ally. Right, because she's supposed to charm your guys, right? Let's see, her A3 banishes 1 enemy and spawns a mirror copy of them onto Stranix's team. Places a true fear debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. Increases Stranix's dark energy counter by 1. And that's on a 4-turn cooldown. Wow. Her passive places a perfect veil buff on a Stranix the Dark Fae for 3 turns and spawns mirror copies of all enemies onto a Stranix's team at the start of the battle. Okay, so that's at the very start of the battle. Spawns mirror copies of all enemies onto a Stranix's team every time her dark energy counter reaches 5. Also places a perfect veil buff on a Stranix the Dark Fae for 3 turns every time her dark energy counter reaches 5. A Stranix's dark energy counter resets after it reaches 5. Wow, man, this chick is tough. Holy. All right, and then the lethal set, which is hers, is a 4-piece set, and it lets the wearer ignore 25% of the target's defense. All right, so it's like Savage, and grants a 10% crit rate bonus. Okay, so that's a great set, actually. So Savage and crit rate, yeah, that's solid. That's a solid set. All right, so like I said, man, these 2 are probably going to be 2 of the. I mean, we thought the Griffin was bad, but I don't see anywhere where it says, other than the bomb, other than his passive where he places the bomb, I don't see anywhere where it says you can't resist it. So as long as you have a high enough resistance, it looks like you can get away with his stuff. So you could probably just ignore a lot of his stuff if you have a high enough resistance. But a Stranix, there's nothing worse than a mirror fight when you're playing any kind of game, because you're constantly min-maxing your own characters, and this is going to be no different. You're going in with your beast champions to beat a boss, and then you're going to have to defeat your own champions. So yeah, that's going to be a tough nut to crack right there. All right, so there are going to be clan changes with this patch. They did mention this in a few different times. First thing is all 90 clan quests will be available to all clans, no prerequisite. So our voices were heard. They're going to change that so that all 90 quests, so there shouldn't be no fighting. You'll still have to figure out how your clan's going to do the elite, expert, and basic quests, but still, there'll be 3 for every clanmate. All right. Looks like they're also going to change it to where it grants 100 clan gold for basic, 200 for expert, and 350 for elite. So they're raising each one by 50. That's pretty good. So while some clan quests will indeed be similar to complete than others, higher tier challenges will offer more significant rewards. Finally, slots number 3 and 5 in the clan shop will no longer feature affinity potions. Yeah, that makes sense because who would buy those? We've added chests with revenge accessories, 5% chance to counterattack when hit instead. Okay, that's pretty cool. And then let's see. That's actually a really good set. 5% chance to counterattack when you're hit. That's really good. And it's an accessory as well. So if you have 3 of them, that's 15% chance to counterattack. Yeah, I like that a lot. All right. Which brings us to new champions. There's 2 new champions. The only thing I looked at was their picture, which is kind of cool because this guy is from the concept art contest that they did quite a few months ago. So that's cool that they're finally bringing him out. All right, so this is going to be the new fusion champion. And since there's only 2 champions coming out, there's no rares or epics, then this is going to be an old or a fragment fusion. So let's take a look at him. Let's see, he's his Rorik Wormbane, legendary spirit attack champion for the barbarians. His A1 Worm Slayer Hammer attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 40% chance of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn. Each hit will fill this champion's turn meter by 15% if the target is not under a stun debuff after the hit. Okay, and that stun chance goes from 40 to 50% chance when booked. His A2 Dragon Rage attacks one enemy, has an 80% chance, it books up to 100% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 75%. Wow, that's a pretty solid drop. If this skill fully depletes the target's turn meter, also has an 80% chance, it books up to 100% chance of placing a stun debuff on all other enemies for 1 turn. And that's on a 3-turn cooldown. That's a good ability. That's really good. All right, Scale Breaker is his A3. We're going to go ahead and read the Ascended. Attacks one enemy, will ignore 50% of the target's defense. And the passive ability is will always use this skill instead of the default skill when counterattacking. This skill will not be blocked by blocked active skills debuff. Wow, nice! And that's on a 4-turn cooldown that books down to a 3. That's actually really good. Because that means if you're running him with a counterattack champion or that new accessory, then he's going to use this as his A1 instead. That's really good, actually. All right, and let's see. His passive is immune to stun debuffs, deals 15% more damage to bosses, and receives 15% less damage from them. All right, well that's pretty solid, actually. Yeah, he's That's a pretty solid champ. All right, and then that brings us to Calvalx as the Duke of Doom. All right, so there will be a making of video about this champion and his fluff for his story, I guess. So he's a legendary spirit attack Knight's Revenant. Oozing Greatsword is the name of his A1. Attacks one enemy, has a 40% chance of increasing the duration of all poison debuffs on the target by 1 turn. And that books up to a 55% chance. Heals this champion by 2.5% of their max HP for each poison debuff on the target. Corruption Locus is his A2, attacks one enemy, places an extra hit for each poison debuff on the target, up to 3 extra hits. Wow, that can actually do some damage. Alright, so up to 3 hits. So that could be 4 hits on the clan boss, or any other boss that has multiple poisons. Alright, and then his Storm of Vitriol attacks all enemies. Damage increases according to the number of poison debuffs on each target. And then lastly, his Pestilence passive places 4 5% poison debuffs on all enemies for 2 turns at the start of each round. Has a 50% chance of placing a 5% poison debuff on all enemies for 1 turn at the start of each turn. Whenever an enemy places a poison debuff on this champion, instantly removes it and replaces it with a 15% continuous heal buff for 2 turns instead. Holy crap. Wow, they didn't do this guy wrong at all, did they? Holy crap. This dude is good. Oh, that power creep. Yeah, both of these champions are pretty solid. This is definitely a fusion you're not going to want to miss. I can definitely tell you that. Well, let me know, guys, what you guys think of these 2 new bosses, their artifacts, and the 2 new champions. But that's pretty much it for this video. If you like what you've seen and you want to see more, hit the like button and join the Hive by hitting the subscribe button. And we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.